Greetings, fellow Terrans. Professor McKee here with a tutorial for Terra Invicta. We finance professors have hobbies, and one of mine is playing Terra Invicta. I'm creating a collection of tips I've learned while playing this game in case you want to have a study break or fight off an alien invasion. Today's guide is an explanation of how you can optimize countries for research production. There's other things you might want to optimize it for, but if you're trying to get the best research possible, this is how to do it. So there are a few factors that influence research. There's quite a few of them. The first is it takes your population and it multiplies it with your GDP per capita. So the higher your GDP per capita and the higher your population, but the higher your GDP per capita is, the higher research will be. There's a breakpoint, at least in the current patch. The breakpoint is at 30,000 per person. So the United States is at 66,000. The United States is way over that breakpoint. Now, if you increase GDP of US, research would go up. It just wouldn't go up as much as if you increased the GDP of China, because China is at 18,000. It's less than 30,000. So that's the first way to improve research: get higher GDP. Now, if your only goal is to increase GDP to get research higher through this factor, ideally you would just get GDP up to 30,000, because once you get above 30,000, improving it has diminishing returns, and the higher your GDP is, the more expensive, because China is 26 billion, US is 22 billion, so US costs 33.87 at game start, and China costs 37.61. It gets more expensive to hold on to this country by making everyone richer. Secondly, the next thing, which is kind of obvious, is that your education stat for the country increases research. So the higher your education is, the more research will increase, and this is true no matter how high you take education. But if you get education above 12, there are diminishing returns. There are costs as well, so if you increase education, that decreases population growth. Population growth increases population, which increases research. So definitely, I would recommend stopping at 12 if what you're trying to do is optimize research, because you don't want to reduce population growth to as little as possible. But it's a big increase going up to 12, so you probably want to go up to 12. Next one. Government score. So the higher your government score is, as long as it's above 1, it'll increase research output. There's no diminishing returns. So the higher your government score is, up to the 10 of the full democracy, the better your research will be. And then next one is cohesion. Ideally, you want a cohesion of 5. That gives you effectively a 25% increase. And as you move either higher cohesion, like China, or lower cohesion, like the United States, your research will drop. The farther away from 5, the worse it's going to be. If you're at 2.5 or less, or 7 and higher, 7.5 and higher, you're going to start getting penalized versus losing a bonus. Now, a high democracy score, government score, will naturally force your cohesion resting towards 5. So if you fix your democracy score up to 10, that's going to push your cohesion towards 5. Other things are like having your popular opinion match your control points, having low inequality. Higher inequality reduces cohesion. And that's about it. But if you have rivalries or you declare wars on rivals, that can increase cohesion. And then, I'll say of the United States, there is one penalty here, which is unrest. Even at every point of unrest decreases your research. It's just a flat penalty. So you want to have unrest of 0. And unrest of 2 or more will decrease your investment points, but unrest of any amount will decrease research. So you want unrest down towards 0. Now, the two main ways to reduce unrest is cohesion and money. The higher your cohesion is, that just gets subtracted from the base value of 10.5, as you can see here. And US has 67, it's rounding, but it has 66.5 thousand GDP per capita. So it's reducing unrest by 6.7. It's rounding out, I assume. Every 1,000 or every 10,000 of GDP per capita decreases unrest by 1. And then if you don't have full democracy, which you probably want to have if you're trying to maximize research, if you have armies, they will reduce unrest as well. So the United States base unrest is actually 0. It just starts out with higher unrest than its base unrest. But if you were to get cohesion to 5 and GDP per capita to 30 and the government score to 10, you're going to have base unrest. Quite a bit of base unrest, actually. So if you have 5 cohesion and full democracy, there's not really many other ways to get unrest down. In order to get unrest to a base value of 0, you don't want 30,000 GDP per capita, you want 55,000. That'd be 5.5 plus the 5 from cohesion is 10.5, exactly equal to that base value. So you actually would like to have GDP at 55,000 instead of 30,000. Not because it increases research directly, but because it removes a penalty, which effectively is the same thing. And lastly, if you have a counselor who can do advise.
I'm here.
Yeah, neither of these guys can do that. The counselor's science, so this, if he could advise, he would add 1% to research output.
Ready.
And Kaylee would do the same. So one common use for counselors, especially later on in the game, is you'll have someone who just does advise. They'll have 25 admin to boost your investment points. They'll have 25 science to boost research. If you're needing to fight with your armies, they might have some points in command to boost your military level here. But of course, you don't always have access to a counselor with 25 science or any science at all. Now, every country is not I don't think there's a single perfect country out there. For instance, China does not have a good government score. Their cohesion is not exactly great either. It's too high. It needs to be lower. Although if you made it lower, they might have unrest issues. The United States is actually really good in terms of GDP. It's fine with unrest. Government score is pretty good, not perfect. Problem is bad cohesion. So when you are looking at the country, you will need to make a strategic decision on how to fix the problem. Let's say I started with the United States. The only real problem the US has is cohesion. So I would just say, all right, well, cohesion is being reduced by a couple of things. The thing I can actually control is inequality. So if I run welfare, that will reduce inequality, that will boost my cohesion up, and I will get cohesion at 5, and I will mostly maximize my research. My GDP per capita is way higher than what I need. So once I get cohesion fixed, maybe I fix my government score. And once that's done, I'm basically done. The only real other way to grow is I grow the population, probably by adding Canada as, well, there'd be probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states, not just one, but you'd add Canada to the United States, you add Mexico, you can add Central America, a lot of the Caribbean. That adds population. And more population means more research. Let's say instead you start with China. Well, China has more problems. So China has a low GDP per capita. You'd love to get it up to 30,000. It'd be really expensive. And you might not have the CP cap to hold it. That's a strategic choice you have to think about when doing this. They have some inequality, although really their issue is that they're too high in cohesion. So you'd want to reduce, you don't want cohesion to change really. You'd probably want to push something like education or GDP if possible. Government score could be fixed too. There's a cool way you can do it with Taiwan. Basically give Taiwan score to China. But that's the kind of things you want to be thinking about when you look at a country and say, this is a country I'm going to take, and I want to get more research. Say, okay, what is causing the research to be lower than it should be? How do I fix it? And that's what makes strategy games enjoyable like this enjoyable for me, because you have to think and say, okay, what is the best way to get the outcome I want? What tools do I have? Can I afford to use those tools? You probably can't afford to grow China's GDP per capita, because you can't even afford China just with your base amount starting out. If you grow it to 30,000 per GDP or 55,000, boy, it's going to be humongous. It'll produce amazing research, but your cap is going to you're going to explode past your cap. All right, so the next time you build up a research empire on Earth, or want to, you now know the things that are necessary to prioritize. If you found this video helpful for your study break, please comment, like, or subscribe so that others can find this video too. Happy not studying or researching a way to deal with the alien invasion.